Hi readers! So before we start the show, I have a quick ask. Will you pretty please rate and review the show if you like it? I mean, if you don't like it, well, that's your choice. But if you do like it, rating and reviewing helps other people find the show. So if you take a few seconds and hit those 5 stars, that helps. And if you take a minute to write something nice about the show, that will help even more. So thank you in advance. And alrighty, now on to the episode. Welcome to The Reader's Couch, a podcast that brings you lively conversations with some of your favourite authors and bookish personalities. Over here, the couch is always booked, but I've moved some books to the side table and fluffed some cushions so I can welcome a guest or two to come lounge with us. Today on the couch, we have Anika Sharma, an author who is taking us on a heartwarming journey to New York City to find love through her debut romance novel. Stay tuned. A persuasive examination of both the legal and cultural forces on why we are primed to disbelieve allegations of sexual abuse is discussed in Deborah Turkenheimer's debut, Credible: Why We Doubt Accusers and Protect Abusers. Turkenheimer describes what leads us to believe some individuals over others, and how it shields the accused by pitting the stereotype of the perfect victim against that of the monster abuser. Turkenheimer also explains how doubt is baked into law and places more weight on the abuser's suffering than the accuser's. Credible also grapples with the ways in which race, class, and gender affects a sexual assault victim's credibility and their ability to access justice, but it also talks about how we can transform a culture and a legal system structured to dismiss accusers. Credible: Why We Doubt Accusers and Protect Abusers by Deborah Turkenheimer is published by Harper Wave, and books are on sale now, so visit your local bookseller or request a copy at your local library. A brutally honest memoir to keep on your radar is Sea State by Tabitha Lastly. In her mid-30s and newly free from a terrible relationship, Tabitha Lastly quit her job at a London magazine and decided to make good on an idea for a book about oil rigs and the men who worked on them, because she wanted to see what men were really like when no women were around. For 6 months, Tabitha conducted interviews with 103 oil riggers in Aberdeen, Scotland. But her affair with her first interview subject, a married man named Caden, sent her original plan into a tailspin. Sea State chronicles Lastly's months interviewing offshore oil riggers and her affair with Caden, but she also examines the industry's work and home life culture, class, love, and politics. Sea State by Tabitha Lastly is being published by Eco Books, and copies go on sale on December 7th, 2021. So call your local bookseller and get those pre-orders in, or make a request at your local library. A novel about womanhood, family, and friendship to keep an eye out for is Black Girls Must Die Exhausted by Jane Allen. Black Girls Must Die Exhausted is the first novel in a 3-book series, and we meet a young black woman who must rely on courage, laughter, love, and the support of her 2 longtime friends to overcome an unexpected setback. In the novel, we meet Tabitha Walker, a black woman with a plan to have it all. At 33 years old, the checklist for her life of her dreams is well underway, until she receives an unexpected diagnosis that brings her picture-perfect life crashing down. Suddenly, she's faced with an impossible choice between her career, her dream home, and her ability to have a family of her own. But with the help of her best friends and family, Tabby explores the reaches of modern medicine and tests the limits of her relationships in hopes to salvage the future she's always dreamed of. But Tabby soon learns that her grandmother's age-old adage just might still be true. Black girls must die exhausted. Black Girls Must Die Exhausted by Jane Allen is being published by Harper Perennial, and books go on sale on September 28th, 2021. So visit your local bookseller or library so you can get your hands on a copy. Readers, get ready for cozy reading and all the autumnal feels with the Biblio Lifestyle 2021 Fall Reading List. This year's guide has a total of 42 books organized across 7 categories, so you can head straight to your favorite genres if you prefer. We also have one category that's dedicated to the minimalist reader. And our Minimalist Reads list has 8 titles that we highly recommend if you're only planning to pick up a few reads this fall. In the guide, you'll also find some fun recipes, things to do at home, and tips to improve your reading life. So download your free copy of the guide and see the books that made the list over at bibliolifestyle.com/2021 FRL. That's bibliolifestyle.com/2021 FRL. I'll also include a link in the show notes so you can sign up there. Hi readers, welcome again to the Reader's Couch. I'm your host, Victoria Wood, and here on the couch with me is a fellow podcaster, you guys. She's a co-founder and co-host of the Woke Desi podcast, which is one of the largest independently run South Asian podcasts out there. So tune into her show as well. But she's here to talk to me about her adult debut novel, Love, Chai and Other Four-Letter Words, which is book 1 in the Chai Masala book club series. So please welcome to the couch, Anika Sharma. Hey, Anika.
Hi, Victoria. How are you? I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yay! I'm super excited to have you here as well. So yeah, your adult debut novel, Love, Chai and Other Four-Letter Words, will be available in the world. Readers can get their hands on a copy. You know, on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling? How excited are you?
I think I go back and forth between like a 20 and a -5 on a regular basis right now with all of this release stuff. It has been extraordinary hearing the response from readers and having messages that say, oh my gosh, I finally see myself in your book. And I get to see myself, especially as a South Asian character, being able to see my background being represented. And that's been extraordinary. And on the other hand, of course, anytime you release a book, you're basically just not sleeping because you're completely terrified that it'll all go to pieces at some point during release, which of course never completely happens, but you can still never convince your soul of that. So I am going back and forth, but feeling really good. And it's just been a really heartening experience. And I am really excited for people to be able to read the book.
Yay! So I want readers to hear it straight from you. Tell us about your novel, Love, Chai and Other Four-Letter Words, and what can readers expect going in?
So as you mentioned, it's the first book in a series of 3, and it focuses on a girl named Kiran, who is a transplant from India. She moved to the United States about 10 years ago for college, and she meets her group of friends who happen to star in the other books in the series. And they have a very tight unit. They're called the Chai Masala Club, and they meet once every couple of weeks just to talk about their lives over chai. And they've been friends since college. They are rolling into their 30s now, and each of them is exploring love in New York City and what that looks like. For Kiran, her family has gone through a lot of trauma because of the love story that her sister was a part of. And because of all of that, Kiran promises, I'm not going to fall in love because it's not the way to do things if I've already seen the damage it causes. And of course, she meets the handsome Nash, who is her neighbor and very, very American. And he is not the right guy for her family, but also she falls in love with him. And that just causes a whole lot of problems. And the whole book is an exploration of a bucket list against the streets and the city lights of New York City. And it also explores what the definition of family and love and home look like to each person and how that can change with the right people around you.
Right. Absolutely. So I want to take a few steps back to Kiran, because like you mentioned, her family, they went through this kind of traumatic experience with her sister. So just to give readers an idea, I promise no spoilers here. Kiran is really trying to be like the good sister, the good daughter, because her sister, who's older, married a man from a lower caste. And so for that reason, it created conflict. Her family disowned her. She's affected. She doesn't want to make those same mistakes. She's trying her hardest. But of course, it doesn't happen that way. So in comes in Nash, her neighbor, who's quite handsome, and she's resisting this initial chemistry because she knows her parents wouldn't approve. And, he's very American. So I love seeing that dynamic. I also love seeing New York City kind of be a character as well as a Southeast Asian culture. I mean, was this intentional? Was this something you really wanted to incorporate?
Very much. So the backstory behind this book is that I actually had to rewrite it 3 times before it was able to be approved for publication. So it just wasn't hitting the right notes that I wanted it to write. And my editors and I were going back and forth. And one of the things that I'd actually done just as I signed this book deal was move to New York. So which each iteration and each version of the story that I was writing, I was discovering New York as well. And so by the time this version, the one that is getting published, was approved and ready to go, I had fallen so in love with the city that had scared the living daylights out of me when I moved here. And so it's very much an ode to the city as well. And it was developed so that the city is a character. And these friendships that Kiran has with these 3 other people are also a character in and of itself, and that it influences the story from start to finish.
Right. Awesome. So let's get into your writing life a bit. Because you just mentioned you rewrote the book about 3 times. What was the spark that gave you the idea to tell this story? What was the fire? What made you decide, I want to put pen to paper and tell this love story, non-traditional love story, in the way you did while incorporating the Indian and South Asian culture?
I think the beauty of it is that I live this type of dual identity situation on a daily basis. My friends do. We all who have moved here from different countries have gone through this immigrant experience and understood that at the end of the day, we have this common human experience that shapes us. Everybody knows what it's like to fall in love, whether that is adoring a family member or falling in love with your partner or falling in love with yourself. And everyone, that's a common emotion to go through and a common experience to go through. But likewise, there's nuance to all of those things. There's certain complications that come with being dual identity that sometimes are really difficult to navigate. And my books tend to operate in that space where I talk about things like caste that still influence us even though we're removed from those situations, but also bring questions about, like, is that right? Should those things be continued? Or is it worth just saying, this is something I'm willing to let go of from my family's past and from my culture, and I'm going to blaze forward because I've had this new opportunity? And those questions are things that people face on a daily basis. And that's why these stories are also rich with, yes, both culture and both cultures across the board between the United States and South Asian countries, because there's such variety in people's experiences. And even as a South Asian, I might write this story, but it might not speak to other South Asians' experiences. They might be like, this is so wrong. This is not my life. And others might say, oh my gosh, I see myself in every page. And that was the whole point of writing the story this way. And to light that spark is to illustrate that everybody does have these different experiences, and that sometimes you are confronted with the differences in very unexpected ways, and falling in love is one of the biggest ways to really challenge yourself and to make yourself vulnerable and to realize what values matter the most to you.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going a bit left field here, and we're going to play a little game. It's very corny, okay? Like, my games are very corny, but it's going to be like a either or a yes, no kind of vibe. And I'm thinking about Kiran and her family and her just, wanting to find someone of her choosing, but also someone that her family would approve. So the name of the game is, would Kiran's parents approve of these marriages and relationships in classic literature? So I'm going to give you two couples. You can let me know if you're familiar with them or not. And you can let me know, just embody her parents right now. Would they approve, yes or no? And they're not multicultural, so we don't have that hurdle.
Okay. I'm ready.
Awesome. I love it. So from Pride and Prejudice, would Kiran's parents approve of Jane and Charles Bingley?
Yes. Yes, they would. Because there is goodwill and compatibility and kindness, and they are approved of, and the families are on board, and it's sort of a very easy, theoretically, a very easy kind of romance, right? And that's something, the path of least resistance. And I think Kiran's parents would look for that, especially knowing that they have two fairy daughters.
Right. Okay. So I don't know if you've read Far from the Madding Crowd, but there's a woman called Bathsheba Everdeen and Gabriel Oak. They were a couple. I don't know if you know that one, but would Kiran's parents approve?
I don't think I've actually read that, to be honest. Far from the Madding Crowd, I didn't read.
She's my favorite female character in a classic book because she's so complicated. I'm going to say Kiran's parents probably wouldn't approve. I'm just going to go on a limb and say that. Have you read Persuasion by Austen?
Yes.
Would Kiran's parents approve of Anne Elliot and Captain Wentworth?
Probably not. Like I said, the path of least resistance, and a second chance romance doesn't sound like the path of least resistance. For Kiran's parents, they would be like, listen, you failed on the first time. You don't get this chance.
Oh, no. All right. Who else do I know in literature? Okay, would Kiran's parents approve of Romeo and Juliet? There we go. That's one.
No, which to me, I disagree with, for the record. But they're young and their families do not like each other and they're not on board with this relationship from start to finish. Nobody likes each other in this entire thing. And so Kiran's parents would probably wonder societally what it would look like if their children married someone that their family and friends did not like. And they would worry about their public perception, which is kind of an awful thing to worry about, but that's 100% who Kiran's parents are.
Totally. And the last one I have is from Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. Would Kiran's parents approve of Jo and her relationship with the professor? I think his name was Professor Barr.
Ooh, that was a good one. I would go with yes, because at the end of the day, she's ending up with somebody, and someone intelligent and someone challenging and someone that works for her personality, even though there was an SES difference. But that was hard. It's very tough to put yourself in the quote unquote villain's perspective, right?
See what I mean? I was thinking about it. I was like, would Kiran's parents approve? Because I know that's a driving thought for her, as throughout the novel, and not wanting to fall in love, and she's seen the traumatic experiences of her sister. So I was just wondering, hey, if you had to play her parents, how would that go? But thank you so much for playing with me. I know it was hard, but let's get back to your writing life. I know you mentioned early in the interview that this is a 3-book series. We have book 1, Love Chai and Other 4-Letter Words. Is book 2 already in the works? Anything you could share with us? Any early tidbits for the Chai Masala Club?
Yes, I am finishing up actually book 2 to send off to my editor. And book 2 follows Payal, who is one of Kiran's best friends. She's very fashionable and very kind and very bougie. And she is going to have a story that's full of a fake engagement and a whole lot of secrets. And a guy who has made an appearance actually in the first book, but very fleetingly. So if you are a very astute reader, you will catch the reference and realize there's a whole nother story brewing. But if not, then you have a lot of drama to look forward to because book 2 is a little bit different than book 1.
Okay, awesome. Now I'm excited and we have something to look forward to, so that's great. But now that you're here, book 1 is out there in the world, book 2 is in the works. I mean, if you could tell your younger writing self anything, what would it be?
To trust your voice and to realize that you have stories to tell that people want to read. I think that when I was younger, I used to feel like, oh, who's going to listen to me? Who wants to read anything that I write? And now I'm thinking, okay, you have a voice. Everybody has a voice and it matters. And everyone's contributing to a greater conversation. So you have a voice and it's powerful and you should use it whenever you get the opportunity to.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, let's get into your reading life. I mean, even though we're here to talk about your book, Love Chai and Other Four-Letter Words, we want to know what you're reading. So tell us first, what was the last book that you finished reading that you'd now recommend?
I read What a Happy Family by Soumya Dev, who is another South Asian writer, but she writes within women's fiction, which is one of my favorite genres. And the story follows, without any spoilers, a family that is seemingly quintessential. And their oldest daughter is happily married. Their middle daughter is about to be engaged. And all of these relationships begin to unravel. And it's kind of like observing what happens when a family starts to fall apart, a relationship starts to fall apart, and how it kind of creates a domino effect across the entire system that you've created that looks perfect on the outside.
Awesome. And what books are you looking forward to reading in the year ahead?
So I have Always in December by Emily Stone on my Kindle right now. And Once More Upon a Time, which comes out on October 5th by Roshni Chokshi. It's actually a novella, and it's also published by my publisher, Source Books. So I'm very excited. It's about a prince and a princess and a little bit more, it's a more fantasy type of story. So I'm really excited for that. Also, Nick and Noel's Christmas Playlist by Cody Hall. And a friend of mine named Sulina Bibra is coming out on October 5th with a story called Two Houses. And I am super pumped for that. And then there's a young adult book by another friend of mine called The Hira in Bloom. And it's by Farah Heron, the author of The Chai Factor.
Ooh, see, you're the friend we need in life who's always going to remember to shout out your books and read your books. I love it. And now
100%. I believe so much in supporting, especially writers of color who are just killing the game right now and whose experiences are drawing from so many things that they've gone through. And I find that really, really magical. So 100%, I am your hype girl if you need one.
Yes, I love it. I mean, yeah, we definitely need hype people like you. And you're also right. It's amazing that writers of color are just, putting out amazing work out here. It's just a wonderful feeling to see yourself in literature. I can't even express how I felt, the first time that happened. Even recently, just reading books now and saying, yeah, I've been there. I can relate to these experiences. So definitely happy they're out there. And you have just added to my TBR pile. So I'm super excited to dive into some of those books too. On that note, we love bookstores here, okay? We love our local indie bookstores. We depend on them. I think they're very important. They're a very important part of our ecosystem in literature. So I ask all our guests on the show, and now I'm asking you to share with our listeners some of your favorite bookstores.
So one of my favorite bookstores is actually back in my hometown in State College, Pennsylvania, and it's called Webster's. And they have this cute little cafe where they do little events. It's downstairs in sort of the basement of a building, so it's a little bit hidden away, which I love. And a lot of people go there just to find a kind of offbeat place to study because it's a university town and things like that. So that's one of my favorites. And my favorite in New York, like every time I go anywhere, of course, is Books Are Magic, which is in Brooklyn. And there's an ice cream place called Malai that's a block away. And it features in Love Chai and Other Four-Letter Words because I love making the rounds between going to Malai and then walking a block over and then going and finding books. So it's the ice cream and books connection there is very strong. So I would definitely recommend that if anyone visits New York, Brooklyn and Books Are Magic are the place to go.
Woohoo! Awesome. So bringing it back to Love Chai and Other Four-Letter Words, I know you've done your job as an author. You've written the book. It's out there. And now it's up to us readers. But in an ideal world, how do you want readers to feel after reading this book? What are some of the reactions you're hoping for, or just some thoughts you're hoping readers might have?
That's such a great question. I've had different kinds of reactions to it. I've had people who really love the love story who aren't exposed to South Asian culture, which at the end of the day is absolutely magical to have people share in something that means such a great deal to me. But then on the opposite side, I've also had people say, Kiran's parents are really being selfish and we have to bring them forward into this generation. And I think that's a 100% valid criticism of the old mentality that we see in our parents' generations or in our grandparents' generations. And I love the questions that are arising from this. At what point do your parents' sacrifices have to be considered but not weighted quite as heavily? Or when do you choose love over family? And when do you choose love over anything in your life? Is it always? Is it sometimes? What are the conditions for that? And also, going back to what we've been talking about throughout this episode, that representation and seeing ourselves in literature, I want readers who are South Asian to feel like a little piece of them was represented in the story. They don't even have to identify with all the characters on every level, but if they can say, hey, I've seen that and I love it, or I've seen it and I don't like it, I want to be different. That is the feeling that I want people to get, and people who are not familiar with South Asian culture to look and say, suddenly this makes a lot more sense. And I want to illustrate that nuance. And I hope that people who pick up Love Chai and Other Four-Letter Words are the ones who feel something deeply whenever they close the book.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Anika. Thank you for coming on the show and speaking with me and playing my silly games and just talking Love Chai and Other Four-Letter Words. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm so sorry that I'm really, really bad at rapid fire games. My podcast co-host says the same thing on a regular basis, that I don't know how to answer anything with a word or two. So I apologize for completely destroying your game, because evidently I don't know how to do this in any kind of short form. But it was a delight to speak with you, and I'm just so happy to be here. So thank you so much. And to any readers, please connect with me on social media at Anika Sharma. I would love to speak with you if you have feelings on this book, whether it is a debate or whether it is that you saw a little piece of yourself in whatever form when you read my book. And thank you so much for having me, Victoria. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And also tune in and subscribe to the Woke Desi podcast. See, I can be a hype girl.
Yes, you are the best kind of hype girl. I love your energy. So I think we'll have a very long friendship after this.
Readers, I had so much fun with author Anika Sharma, and I just want to take this opportunity to thank her again for coming and lounging on the couch with us. This week will be a big publication week for so many authors. There are tons of books gracing bookshelves on Tuesday, October 11th, but I'm going to spotlight 18 new and noteworthy titles for you to keep on your radar. If you're in the market for some non-fiction, out this week is Hooked by Sutton Foster, The Loneliest American by J. Caspian Kang, Oscar Wilde by Matthew Sturgis, and Conception by Albert Samaha. If you're looking for some literary fiction, new this week is Tales from the Cafe by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. For novels with themes of family and friendship, new this week is Jacket Weather by Mike Decapite and MacArthur Park by Judith Freeman. If you're looking for some romance novels, out this week is The Brightest Star in Paris by Diana Biller, The Party Crasher by Sophie Kinsella, and Always in December by Emily Stone. For our thrillers, mystery, and suspense novel readers, out this week is No One Will Miss Her by Kat Rosenfield, Death at Greenway by Laurie Raider Day, and State of Terror by Louise Penny and Hillary Rodham Clinton. For horror readers, out this week is The Haunting Season, 8 Ghostly Tales for Long Winter Nights by Bridget Collins, Imogen Hermans-Gowa, Kieran Millward Hargrave, Andrew Michael Hurley, Jess Kidd, Elizabeth McNeil, Natasha Pulley, and Laura Purcell. And for our science fiction and fantasy readers, out this week is The Brides of Maricor by Gregory Maguire, The Destroyer of Light by Jennifer Marie Brissett, This Thing Between Us by Goss Moreno, and Child of Light by Terry Brooks. You can find a list with all these books and their summaries, along with the show notes, at thereaderscouch.com. Thank you so much for tuning in to The Reader's Couch. You can find out more about the show and submit your questions for our guest by visiting our website, thereaderscouch.com. You can also connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Couch Is Booked. If you like the show, please subscribe, share, and take a few seconds to leave a rating and review. Next week, I'll be back with new guests, more books, and some fun games we can play. But until then, stay lounging, stay reading, and whenever you're in doubt, go straight to your local bookstore or library. Thanks for listening, and happy reading.